Hi, this is Craig Stocks here for Utah Desert Remote Observatories. I just finished putting together a short video showing a lot of different color palette combinations of the Lagoon Nebula. And I had so much fun putting it together, I wanted to share a little bit of the process of how I put it together. It started, of course, with a lot of narrowband data, hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. That was captured at the observatory and processed through PixInsight, and then I used StarNet version 2 to remove the stars. And that gave me the three basic narrowband images, which of course are black and white because they were captured with a monochrome camera. But each filter is very distinct in what it shows. So for instance, this is the data from just the hydrogen filter with the stars removed. This is the data from just the oxygen filter, and you can see it's very different structure. It's dominant in different areas. Just again, hydrogen, oxygen, and then the sulfur is even different yet. It shows up in different places. So the fun part comes when you start assigning colors and blending the colors between those three to get different color combinations. I also had some RGB data that I had done with a one-shot color camera last fall, with about the same framing, so I was able to pull those stars out and use those to add the stars once I have the whole thing complete. So here's the three layers: hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. And of course the eyeball to the left of the layer icon shows you whether that layer is currently visible or not. And by default each layer is opaque, but this is an RGB file. If we look at image mode, we can see that in fact this is an 8-bit because these have already been processed and turned into JPEGs to work with for the video. But it is an RGB image. So even though it looks monochrome or black and white, in fact all three color channels are there. It's just that the values are equal in each channel. And so the technique I like to use to add color, and let's start with just hydrogen and oxygen. If I go to the oxygen layer, and if I double click on the layer to the right of the layer name, that will bring up the blending options dialog box. And because this is an RGB image, we can see in the center here where it says channels R, G, and B, there's a checkbox next to each channel. And I can simply turn off the ones I don't want this layer to contribute. So if I want to make this a hydrogen, oxygen, oxygen, or HOO type image, where hydrogen would be red, oxygen would be green and blue. I'm currently on the oxygen layer. I don't want red from oxygen, I just want the green and blue. So I simply turn off the red channel, click OK, and now we have a color HOO image without having to mess with the channels and cutting and pasting and copying and all of that complexity. If I want to add sulfur to this, I can go to the sulfur channel, turn that layer on, and again by default it's just overlays and it's in normal blending mode. But if I want to pick up the green channel from sulfur, again I can double click on the sulfur layer. Since I want green from sulfur, I'll just turn off the red and blue and click OK. And now we have an HSO image with hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. I'm not sure I like some of the contribution where the sulfur is turning this more of a purplish color. So one way to address that is to make this a bit of a hybrid. If I go to the blending options, you can see that right now this is blending in normal blending mode. So that means it contributes both dark and light values. If I only want to take the lighter values, where we see the yellows and greens from the sulfur layer, I can click on this drop down and change to lighten blending mode. And now the sulfur is only contributing where the sulfur is brighter than what's below, and it's not darkening, for instance, the blue from the oxygen. So now it's a bit of a hybrid, but it's a hydrogen, sulfur, oxygen color palette. If we want to explore the standard, the Hubble palette, that would be sulfur, hydrogen, oxygen. Let's put our sulfur back in normal blending mode. I'll double click, and for SHO we want sulfur to be red, so turn on the red, turn off the green. And oxygen we want to be just blue. So I'll come to the oxygen layer and turn off the green. And you notice I don't have to do anything with hydrogen because it always is just contributing whatever the other two are not. So now we have an SHO, or a Hubble palette. And of course, if you don't like the green, you can add a color or selective color or hue saturation layer above all of this. For instance, if I just add a hue saturation layer, I can grab the tint slider at the top and rotate the colors to bring in more reds, more golds, more greens. So I can adjust global colors this way, and I can also target individual colors. I can use increase or decrease the saturation. I can use selective color. All of the normal editing tools that you would use in Photoshop are available. And the last thing you might want to do is put the stars back in. I have a layer with just the stars, although they are against a black background. But the stars are brighter than what's below. So again, we want to use this blending mode to pick up just the areas where the stars are brighter than what's behind it. And so we'll change this to linear dodge blending mode. And now the stars are only brightening what's below and not darkening. So now we have a SHO, or Hubble palette, combination with stars of the Lagoon and the Trifid nebulas. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful, and subscribe to the channel. You can find us, of course, online at utahdesertremote.com, where we are now renting our equipment by the imaging hour. So if you wanted to capture your own data of the Lagoon Nebula or any other, you can rent time on our Takahashi or plane wave telescope and capture your own data. And by this summer, we hope to have spots available where you can rent us up here to locate your own remote setup and do imaging under our dark Bortle 2 to Bortle 1 level skies. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you have a great day today and an even better night tonight under clear, dark skies. Thanks.